Open up the champagne, pop. It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this.
All right, fellas, it is that time again. Welcome to Press Pass Live. It has been a couple of weeks. The last show that we've done, I was actually all by my little lonesome here, and but I get to welcome in one of the best guys on the face of this planet, a guy that we are so happy to have here at Grown Folks, and one of the co-hosts here at Press Pass Live. Let me welcome in Dawgs. Dawgs, welcome back to the show, man.
Glad to be back. Seems like it's been about a month since I've been around, but with some changes and vacation and stuff, it just kind of worked out that way.
That's right. So you were off vacationing at Disneyland. How was that?
It was pretty fun. Lots of people, but we had a good time.
Yeah, I can't even imagine vacationing at Disneyland at all. That would be pretty torturous. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're back. We got things rolling. We are in one of the most tumultuous Madden seasons ever here in Grown Folks. We came off such a high of, I'd have to argue, the best draft show that we've ever had with the most people. It's just a great time to be coming off. We're going to have one more really good push season before we get to what I call the dead season, where everybody just quits and doesn't want to be around. But instead, it kind of hit us early. Spring has gotten here early, and guys have already starting to tail off. But we are going to keep pushing through, and we got a lot to catch people up on. So if you haven't listened to last week's show, you need to go back and listen to that. That was with just me. Right now, we're going to catch you up to where we are here, but we're going to try something a little bit different. So in the past, we usually catch you up with all the games and then have a couple of different things that we talk about, but we're going to do a little bit differently. Each of us have a couple of questions that we're going to kind of cover, some things that just get a good look all the way around the league. So I've got my PlayStation remote play up, which I absolutely love. If you guys haven't tried that out, you should try it out. Go back and check out the week's games that you may have missed. We're going to advance from week 13 here. I think we stopped on weeks 8 and 9 last time. So we've got 10, 11, 12, and 13 that you can catch yourself up on. Lots of good games. I encourage you to go back and do that. So let's hop in here. Let's start talking about some questions. So tell me this, Dog. First question right off the bat. Let's talk about the Titans for a second. Who is more important to the Titans? Their running back Langford or the quarterback that everybody wants in Mariota?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Both of them up near the league leaders for their respective position. It's a tough one. Like I said, I think I'd have to go Langford. I think he's got a quarterback in waiting there, Caesar McFadden, who he said over and over again is basically a Mariota clone. You look behind Langford, you got Bishop Sankey, who he could be a serviceable backup, and I think that's pretty much what he uses him for. But lose Mariota to have somebody like McFadden sitting there, doesn't have a lot of game experience, but he is basically the same player that Marcus Mariota is. So I would think if Mariota went down with injury, McFadden could step in there for him a lot easier than Bishop Sankey could step in for Jeremy Langford.
Yeah, you know what? My initial reaction is to agree with you. Of course, McFadden was a guy that was drafted 2 seasons ago, 6'3", out of Auburn. A little bit of a confusing pick at the time. Mariota was coming off of injury, and the owner was our co-commish, Ducks, and he felt like he needed a backup plan. But Langford has been getting it done in this league for a very long time. And I know last season, or maybe the last couple of seasons, have been a little off for him, but the guy is still averaging 6.1 yards a carry, 22 touchdowns. I have to agree with you. That's pretty hard to count against. But man, Mariota has a quarterback rating of 129.8, 3,100, almost right at 3,200 yards, 23 touchdowns, dogs, with only 4 interceptions. I know both of those quarterbacks have similar stats, both have similar builds, both can run. But man, I think you got to go with the quarterback. I mean, if I had to pick, the way I look at it, if you're building a franchise and you had to pick between both of these guys, I'm taking Mariota 9 out of 10 times, probably 10 out of 10, because I think you can find a running back just about anywhere that can do the things that Langford's doing under the right control and under the right offensive line. So I got to go Mariota in that one, just because if he's injured, I do think their backup quarterback is a good guy, but I'm not sure that he can do what Mariota's doing. So let's keep it in the same vein. Let's compare some guys. Now, the Giants owner has done some interesting things before we released him from the league, and now Pepper's over in New York with his favorite team and trying to rebuild things. But the Giants, this couple of seasons ago, traded off Odell Beckham Jr. and instead sent him away and went to drafting and drafted a guy by the name of Tank Graham. Who would you rather have, dogs? Would you rather have Tank Graham, who's leading our league in a lot of categories? The guy is a stud. Or would you rather Odell Beckham Jr., who's like number 2 or 3 on that list?
It's a tough one. Tank Graham is having a unbelievable rookie season. I mean, he's kind of a question mark going into the draft since never seen that happen on Madden before, but he skipped the combine. So nobody knew what his stats were. Nobody knew anything really about him other than he was a big receiver and his projection. But if you look at Odell Beckham, the guy, just throw it to him and he's going to catch it. I mean, he's not the blazing speed that Graham has, but I think I would have to go Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, the guy, just look at his stats: catching 97, special catch, spectacular catch 99, catching traffic 98, route running 98, release 89. I mean, it's just ridiculous to look at his stats. Like I said, he's fast enough, 91 with 90 acceleration. He throw it to him and he will catch the ball. Tank Graham, I think, is more of a straight line runner. And if I'm out, kind of what you were saying a minute ago, if I'm picking one or the other to be my number 1 wide receiver, I think I would go with Odell Beckham Jr. Be a tough choice to make, but I'll take Beckham Jr. in that situation.
Yeah, you know what? This is a tough one. My initial reaction is Odell, just because I'm an LSU fan. I love Odell. I'd take him in real life just about over anybody. In Madden, before Tank got here, I would have took Odell Beckham Jr. on my team any day. But man, I got to agree with you. So both are really speedy. Both catch everything. Tank is putting up some unbelievable stats. 64 receptions, 1,500 yards. He's averaging 23.5 yards a catch, 125 yards a game, 18 touchdowns. That is a whole bunch more than almost anyone in the league. Let me look that up. He is double the next person, which is another rookie in Jordan from the Rams. This guy is just putting up unbelievable stats. Here's why I'm going to take Graham. I like Odell. I actually had some really good success against Graham this past week. I think I did a great job. Held him to 3 receptions under 30 yards. Double teamed his butt and spied him every single play. I wasn't going to let him beat me. Here's why I got to take Graham, though. All things even, he's 6'4", 233. Odell's 5'11", 198. Odell's had some injury problems so far in the league. Graham has been pretty steady. Even this year, Graham has played more games than Odell has. I got to take Graham just because that speed with that height, if you can teach him how to run some better routes, I would be mind blown the kind of stats that he's going to put up. I got to take Tank Graham in that one, even though it's super, super tough. Let's go to the next one. AFC. It's been a crazy up and down year so far. It has been. It's just it had with people coming and going and things going on. It has been super crazy. Teams that have been, that leading team have taken a step back. Teams that have been, in the back have taken a step up. What do you think about the AFC? We've had some movement in there. We've had to cut ties with a couple of owners. Some other owners' life has kind of just pulled them away. What do you think about the AFC West? Who do you think is going to win that? Right now, the AFC West looks like this. You got the Raiders at 8-3 at the tippy top. Next, the Chargers, just a game behind at 7-4. The Broncos right on their heels at 7-5. And then, of course, the butthurt Chiefs, who just quit 3-8 after a great season they had a couple of years ago. Who do you like in the AFC and why? Dogs, did we lose you? Oh, you're cutting in and out, my friend. You got to love technical difficulties. While Dogs is getting that mic put that together, I'll go ahead and give my little input here. You know what? The Raiders are having one of the better seasons that we've seen them have in a very long time. He's doing some things with Terrell Pryor that I did not think were possible, even to a point where it's kind of made you scratch your head and wonder if we're going to get complaints here pretty soon. But we haven't. Things have been well. He is just playing some really good football. The Chargers are surprising everybody. It's good to see the Chargers. Anytime the Chargers are one of the top teams in your league, things are going very well. And then we're going to get to the team that I'm actually going to take here. I like the Broncos. Now, I know that he is on vacation out of town right now. He's on our board. But you know what? I think that he is one of the more steady teams. And sooner or later, teams are going to catch on to what he is doing in Oakland with Terrell Pryor. They're going to shut that down. And it's going to be interesting to see, can he move past that? The Raiders are a weird team that have been they've got some crazy stats that you look at. He does something super well and struggles in other ways really badly. I like the Broncos. I think that they're going to pull it together here and take the lead in the AFC West. Dogs, do we have you back yet? Let me see if I can mute him. I'm going to mute you, Dog, and then bring you back. We even got a caller this time. This is the technical difficulties, though, that we deal with. Dogs, are you back with me? I think we might have lost Dogs. Something with his mic, and he said he's trying to figure it out. All right, Dogs, I'm going to let you figure it out. I'm just going to keep on trucking here. That is who I think is going to win the AFC West. And then let's look at some other interesting things. This is something that kind of stuck out to us over the last couple of weeks as Dog is going to leave and then come rejoin us and see if he can get back in here. We want to take a look at Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is doing some really sick things. Now, this is another Oakland player. Another one of the reasons that Oakland is just really good this year is because of what Khalil Mack is doing. He is just doing some spectacular things on that defense. He is actually leading the Grown Folks Madden League in interceptions as a middle linebacker, which is just interesting to me. This year there seems to be a lot of players who are leading the league in interceptions from that linebacker position. It seems to be the in thing to do is to get a good speedy linebacker and make some noise. So far this year, Khalil Mack, has 33 solo tackles, 35 assist tackles for a total of 68. He's got 5 tackles for loss, only 1 sack, but 9 interceptions for 84 yards, 7 deflections, no forced fumbles, which is a little interesting. You'd expect him to have some forced fumbles, but he's able to kind of keep that Raiders defense grounded, and he's a playmaker, and that is what every team is looking for. They're looking to find that playmaker that you can plug and play in that middle linebacker spot. If you don't use or control him, then you want somebody with a lot of speed that the computer can roam around, keep the middle of that field congested, keep those drags and crosses and posts from happening. But if you do use him, then you can fly all around the field, make all kinds of plays. If you're a good middle linebacker user, I used to be really good at middle linebacker. I no longer have the touch. I'm trying to figure it back out and see if I can get that touch once again. But Khalil Mack is making a difference in Oakland and making a difference in his team. Dog, do we have you back with us? We're going to try this again. We are finally back. Thank you for hanging in there and listening to us. And technical difficulties, man. None of us get paid to do this. We got to figure this out on the fly. So when we left, we were talking about Khalil Mack. Give me your thoughts. We kind of moved on a little bit, but give me your thoughts about Khalil Mack. Talk about Khalil and what he's doing by leading the Grown Folks Madden League in interceptions as a middle linebacker.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat line to me. You look at Khalil Mack; he is I think you put him at outside linebacker. He in a 3-4 defense, the guy could probably be leading the league in sacks too. So just shows you what a good athlete a guy like Khalil Mack is. Plug him in the middle, like you said, let him run around, and he's leading the league in interceptions. He's not a I guess 68 tackles when you combine the solo and assist. Not bad. He's having a good year. Only 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. Which, like I said, I think he put the guy on the edge as a rusher, and he could very easily be leading the league in sacks as well. So, great athlete. Interesting choice to move him to middle linebacker, but he's a playmaker, so he's doing what he does. He's making plays in the middle of the field for the Raiders.
Yeah, the guy's a real stud. Speaking of studs or duds, let's look back at the number 1 draft pick this past season. His name was Sims. I'm trying to think of Jose Sims. He was the number 1 pick out of Michigan State, the 6'2", 205 cornerback, rookie for the Rams. They love them some speed. I know that Winovus cracks my balls the biggest because I am his favorite word, bug nuts over speed. But the Rams outdo me. They love them some speed. Looking back at the draft, and we're a little past halfway. Things are starting to come to a close here shortly. Do you feel like Jose Sims going number 1 to the LA Rams was the number 1 draft pick, was the right draft pick for that team and for this draft?
It's a tough one because if you look at the guy's attributes and what he should be doing, he's a stud. He's fast. He can cover. Then you look at his stats, man, and he's got 15 tackles. So that either means one or two things: nobody catches the ball against him, nobody throws it to him, or he can't tackle. So one of those 3 things is happening. Only 3 interceptions, and I'm pretty sure 2 of those came in the same game. So he did have one his last game against the Vikings. So you want to see more. For that team, I think he ended up getting a receiver to pair the other side of whatever he calls that guy. What is it? Optimus Prime. He calls him.
Prime, yep.
Yeah. So he got a receiver to put on the other side. But think about that guy and Tank Graham. Had he taken Graham number 1 overall, that would be a scary, scary duo. And I'll go out on a limb and say, had he known Graham was going to be a 97 speed, Tank Graham would be a St. Louis Ram right now. So you can make the argument he could have picked Graham, but you didn't know Graham's combine stats going in. So it's a good pick. You want to see more out of your number 1 overall pick, especially all the trouble he went through to make that trade happen to jump up there to number 1. At least 3 or 4 posts he had to make to finally get it approved. So it was a lot of work. I don't know, maybe the guy has a really good finish to the year, but like I said, 15 tackles, not very good. I mean, your corners, I guess you don't want your corners making a whole lot of tackles, but I mean, you'd like to see a guy like that get involved in the play, maybe come up for some run support occasionally. But good pick. I I don't know, man. I would say I guess he's deserving of it. I think he's going to prove it next year. But as of right now, you could definitely make a case for other players.
Yep, I got to first say that you got to take everything into consideration, like you were saying. You got to take in consideration of what was given up to get up there to number one. What were the reasons to get there? What were the other needs of the team? This isn't, is Jose Sims a number one cornerback in the league question? I think he is in the future. The question is, was he worth the first pick overall, and was he worth that for the Rams? I got to say he wasn't. Look, Jose Sims has the typical speed that you want, the prototypical 6'2", 205 frame. But here's some facts. 15 total tackles, like you were saying. Only 2 tackles for loss. No sacks, not a big deal, especially for a corner, unless you're blitzing off of the nickel or something. So that's not a huge deal. 3 interceptions, like you said, 2 that came in one game. That's a huge deal. And only 5 deflections. That's a big deal this way, this deep into the season. No forced fumble, no fumble recovery. He's not getting those turnovers and forcing those turnovers like you want to see for your number one overall pick. I don't think that Jose Sims was worth trading up and giving what you gave up to get up that high to pick him. If this were season 1, then maybe that's a longer discussion because you're having 3, 4, maybe 5 seasons with him. But this isn't season 1. You're going to have one season where he's an okay player. I find that with a lot of cornerbacks, they start to turn things on late in the season, and then their second and third seasons, they really start to blossom and shine. But you don't have that kind of time with him. And so you're drafting him basically strictly off of his speed. And that speed is not turning into playmaking ability for you. So my answer to the question is Jose Sims worth the number one draft pick. I don't like it, and I don't think that it was. Speaking of number one draft picks, we're going to talk about our buddy, our co-host of this show, who actually left. You know, things happened. He was frustrated. He left us for a couple of weeks, but his comeback actually has been through 3 teams already since his comeback. But he will not be having the number one pick because he has taken over the powerhouse in the AFC, the New England Patriots. So my question to you is, can Winnibus return to form and carry the Pats' great tradition in the AFC to be that powerhouse over in the AFC?
Powerhouse. I'm not sure about powerhouse. We hadn't seen him play a game with his team yet. Playoffs. He'll be in the playoffs. He's got we had an unfortunate situation this week where the Texans owner life happens and he had to leave us. So he's going to get a win from that game. Last minute deal. So he'll be at 10-2. He's got the Bills twice. So if he wins one of those games, and he's got the Bills twice, the Dolphins, and the Broncos. So I think he probably beats the Bills at least once. Beats the Dolphins, that puts him at 12-4. So at 12-4 at worst, I'll say. So definitely he's going to be in the playoffs. It'll be once he gets there, what can he do, and can he figure out how to really play with that team in such a short amount of time? He's going to run into if you got the Steelers and the Titans, the class of the AFC. It's a tough road over there. It'll be interesting to see how fast he can put it together with a new team, figuring out his new players and getting that team the way he wants to make a playoff run, because he'll be in the playoffs. It's just going to be how far can he go in the playoffs. I'd say he wins a game. He's probably going to win that division. So win the division, win a playoff game. I don't know that he gets past the Titans or the Steelers once that time comes, but you never know. I mean, he's a good player. Got a really good team. We've seen that. So powerhouse, I wouldn't go that far yet. Playoff team, I'll definitely put him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Here's a team who is 9-2, like you said. He's probably number 3 in our power rankings or somewhere in that, according to Madden. He's number 3 in their power rankings. Here's why I like this team. They already have the number 1 defense in the AFC East. He's got 29 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 16 interceptions, and that is what Wynn is known for, is for his defense. He plays super conservative on offense, which I think is going to hurt him a little bit. This is an offensive team that is built for the big play ability, and it is built to gash teams. A great young quarterback, a great young running back, and a great team defense. I think that if he opens up that offensive playbook just a little, pushes himself outside of his own comfort zone, and plays good, solid defense, which is what Wynn is known for, that he could actually make a run to possibly the AFC Championship game. And I say that for a lot of different reasons, but I just like how this team fits his style, how this team is set up to make a deep run, and I also just think that there's a perfect storm brewing with the amount of games that our 2-time champion, that dude, has missed, and the strength or lack thereof of the AFC as a whole. Of course, you have just moved on from the Jets, but when the Jets were that team pushing for a playoff mark, that AFC was really tough. And I think that this year the AFC is a down conference and is just down in general. So I think that he is actually going to make a run here. I think we both agree he's in the playoffs. I won't be shocked if he makes a run and goes really deep into the playoffs. Speaking of new teams, that brings us to my second question. Do the Cardinals and their new owner and yourself immediately become the NFC favorite at Arizona?
I would say no. I got some big shoes to fill. Nolan leaving there. You know, I think I could win some games. Hopefully get into the playoffs. I don't know about favorite. I wouldn't call myself the favorite by any stretch. You look over there. You got the Bucks are a good team. You got some good teams. The Redskins usually in the playoffs. Vikings lost a couple games here of late, but the Rams are sitting at 8-4. You got some good teams there. The Cardinals definitely have a good team. Nolan put that team in a really good spot. I have to get used to some new players. Kind of hated to move from the Jets after been there since joining the league. Kind of built a team that I liked, but I guess it all boiled down to I just don't like the Jets, and it so to be able to jump over to the Cardinals, it'll be a fun time. I would definitely, like I said, I wouldn't put myself as the favorite by any stretch, though.
Yeah, I have to disagree. I think everything that I said with Wynn and his new Patriots, I have to say about you. I think that this team just fits your style very well. You are a very good running team over in New York. You're taking over one of the best running teams in the whole Grown Folks Madden League in Arizona, an offensive line that just opens up huge holes. You're a great defensive player over in New York. You're taking over one of the best defenses in the league. I will say, though, no one anywhere can make people turn the ball over the way Nolan could with Tyrann Mathieu at free safety. I know that there will be a drop-off from there, but if you, like Wynn, continue to stick to your game plan, adjust to your new team, I think that you do immediately become one of the favorites in the NFC. Yes, you've had a down year, but you're back, you're able to focus, and you're taking over a team that has a lot of momentum and a lot of things going forward that are really good for them. I personally like you in the NFC, and I think that this team just fits very well for what you're doing. Speaking of a team that we were talking about just a few minutes ago, let's talk about the Rams. Do you feel like the Rams, are they a pretender? Are they a contender? We've seen this out of the Rams before. Are they the real deal and legit? Are they just going to fall by the wayside before the season really ends up?
Looking at their schedule, they got the 49ers who have yet to win a game. We do have a new 49ers owner, so that could be a little different game than it was earlier in the season for him. Then he's got the Chiefs who currently don't have an owner, which, with the rules that we're talking about, he'll at least have to play that game or either just take a straight sim. No more freebies for the guys playing the CPU teams. Then he's got the Seahawks. Seahawks are a tough team. That could be a wild card or possible division winner, between those two teams. Whoever wins that game could be looking at a playoff spot for sure. Then he's got the Lions and Bill, who I really hate the way he's such a great owner. I hate that he's kind of seemed to lose interest, and he's expressed that. He almost left us at one time, but the dude can really play. So that's a tough game if Bill's still around there at the end against the Lions. 4 games left. I think he makes the playoffs. I don't know if he wins a playoff game. It's really going to come down to the matchups, and if he can beat the Niners, which we don't know much about right now, then the Chiefs game, like I said, will be a CPU unless we fill that team. And it'll be tough. I could see him getting to 10 wins. He'll be in the playoffs. I don't know if he's a contender to win it all. So if we look at it from that standpoint, calling him a contender, he's a playoff contender. He's not a Super Bowl contender. So that's where I'll leave that. I think, like I said, playoffs, not a Super Bowl, but you never know. It's a different year here with all the shakeup and owners, and with Nolan leaving the Cardinals. That was definitely the NFC favorite before, so kind of opens things up for some guys. Playoffs, but no Super Bowl for the Rams.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I like him in the playoffs. I think he's a contender for that. Outside of that, I think he's a pretender, though. I do have to give him his due. He's really turned some things around here. He has gotten the benefit of some simulated wins, but I look at his played record against teams that are going to be in the playoffs, such as the Raiders, such as the Cardinals. No, that was actually a simulated game that he had. The Broncos he played really well against. I think that the schedule sets up for him to make the playoffs. I like him against the 49ers. I like him against the Chiefs. I do like him against the Seahawks. I don't like him against the Lions. I do agree with everything you said about Bill. He's such a great guy, and I hope he does continue to stick it out with us. We need great owners like that. But life happens, and Madden burns out for some guys, and they just move on. I hope he sticks it out. But if Bill stays, I like him in that game. Other than that, I think the Rams are going to be favored in all other 3 games. I do like them to make the playoffs, but I think it will be a quick in and out, and they're not going to last too long. That's going to bring us to my 4th question. Is Trey Brandon the most surprising player in the league so far? We're going to keep talking about those Rams. Trey Brandon was part of that huge offseason that the Rams had, where they were trading guys left and right and all kinds of really big, massive deals. Trey Brandon comes over from, I want to say, the 49ers. I may be totally wrong on that, but he comes over as a second-year player and really has made a huge difference. Is Trey Brandon of the St. Louis Rams the biggest surprise in the season so far?
I'm gonna have to say yes, and the reason I'm gonna say yes is you look at Trey Brandon's stats: 172 carries, almost 1,200 yards, almost 7 yards a carry for 9 touchdowns. I mean, he's had a really good year, a really unexpected year for the team that he's on. You look at and the reason I say that is you look at last year. You had a guy in Todd Gurley, who everybody knows. Todd Gurley is a beast We couldn't figure out why is he not giving this guy the ball more. Didn't make any sense. Everybody thought, oh, well, you got Trey Brandon, you lost Gurley, you don't run the ball anyway. Todd Gurley's stats last year: 182 attempts, 779 yards. I mean, he just didn't give him the ball. He had 9 touchdowns, 4.3 yards per carry. I get he's changed his philosophy, or either the computer has helped him out with his stats, one or the other. But Trey Brandon definitely a surprise. I expected to look at Trey Brandon's stats this time of the year and him have about 100 carries, 600 yards, couple touchdowns. But he's really turned it around, his running game, and we all know if you run the ball well, it only opens up some of the passing game. So. And his quarterback has definitely benefited from that, only throwing 4 picks to 27 touchdowns. So Trey Brandon definitely one of the biggest surprises this year in the GFML.
Yep, I got to agree. I think that they definitely hit a gold mine with him. Now, he has benefited from some simulated games, but the guy's had 172 carries, 1,169 yards. He's averaging 6.8 yards a carry, which is unbelievable. 9 touchdowns, 97 yards a game average. I really like what he is doing over there with the Rams. It's shocking to me. I did not expect to see that. I did not expect those kinds of stats to come from him. I thought that it was going to be a terrible deal that everybody's going to make fun of him about. But you know what? I got to give it to Doug. A great pick there, a great pickup. And Trey Brandon is one of the biggest surprises to me so far this year. And let's bring it to the last question that we're going to wrap up the show with. We've been talking about a lot of young players so far this year. Do you feel like this past draft was one of the strongest drafts ever in the Folks Madden League?
I think so. I wasn't here for the first one, so I can't speak to that. But of the second and third one, this one had. I mean, it's got superstars in it, and that's what you look at. It's got a bunch of solid players, but I mean, you look at Tank Graham leading the league rookie year in receiving yards and touchdowns, like you said, almost doubling what the next guy. Running backs have been a little bit light. You got Trey Walden there in Philadelphia with 700 yards, right at 700 yards rushing. You look at the quarterback. Everybody wants to look at the quarterbacks. The Redskins picked up Tim Blake, and he has stepped in and been the starter for them all year. I made the selection with the Jets and took Devin Ward. I had lost him for 4 weeks due to injury, so his stats aren't there. And it was kind of what you would expect from playing a rookie quarterback, kind of some ups and downs, but the upside for him is good. Look over on the defensive side, Denver, 2 rookies, Gabe French and Nigel Fender, both with 4 interceptions. DeQuan Jackson with New England, 4 interceptions. Prince Griffin, I think you'll remember that guy from the Panthers, whenever Dunn picked him up.
He lost his mind about it.
Prince Griffin. He does have 3 picks, which is the same as, guess who, Jose Sims. So, I mean, there's some really good players. Definitely a solid class. Like I said, you'd like to see a little bit more from the running backs, but I think Trey Walden, if I'm not mistaken, I'll take a look here, Trey Walden was one, if not the first or second running back taken in his 18th pick of the first round out of Georgia. He does have fast development, so he'll probably be a guy that improves. He is averaging right at 5 yards a carry, but only for 691 yards on 142 attempts. So he's kind of falls into that category of a guy. If he got the ball more, he could probably be around the 1,000-yard mark right now. But solid class all the way around. I liked every one of my picks 1 through 7. So it was definitely a good draft. And the stats that you don't see here, offensive linemen, there were some good linemen taken. I know you had a couple centers that I really liked that you had there with the Saints. So I would say it's the best one I've been here for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a really solid draft. I do think it is one of those drafts where we are going to have a lot of offensive power in the league for a long time coming from guys like Graham, guys like the two Jordans, both Therrell Jordan to the Rams, and I ain't even going to try to say my guy's name, F. Jordan from LSU that went over to me. There were some really good receivers that came out of this draft. When I think about strongest drafts, I think this is probably an unfair question for you. I think that the year one was really solid. That year there was a ton of good quarterbacks that came out, a couple of really great receivers, both Optimus Prime for the Rams and, of course, Morrison for my Saints. There were a bunch of good cornerbacks and linebackers that came out of that draft. And then most of all, there was a ton of great offensive line. So I do like year one better, but this was a super solid and a really good draft that came out. I just don't know that it was the best draft ever. So there you have it. There's a look at the Grown Folks Mad League up to week 13. We have not advanced yet, but we will be advancing here very, very shortly. So thanks for listening and checking out the show. We will be here every Thursday all the way until the new Madden drops. We are not taking a break. May have some computer teams to deal with, but we will be here. If you are bored and you're looking for something to do, we do have a coach-only league. Basically, you turn the coach mode on. You control the quarterback and the kicker, and you call the plays and you let it play out. It is a ton of fun. It's pretty laid back. Most of all, if you're listening to the show, check out the new rules. We've let some new rules go. Everything has been, I think, pretty well received. There's been some questions about the new contract rule. We removed the 5+1 rule. We removed the ceilings and floors. Basically, it's just 3-year deals now and a minimum 20% bonus that has to be on every contract. And I've even tested it with some practice franchises, and 3 years seems to be working out really well. It does force you to pay players a little bit more that want 4 or 5 or 6 year deals, but at the same time, you still got plenty of cap and you can be creative and keep your guys, but it forces you to really think about what you're doing. So check out the new rules. We've tried to remove some of the fat and keep it super simple and something that everybody can follow through on. It has been a great show, a little bit different technique that we've used in the past, even some technical difficulties tonight, but you hung in there with us. Dog, you're the best. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Any last thoughts on week 13 in the Grown Folks Madden League?
I think as we come to a close and get into the last 4 weeks of the season, just hope guys continue to stick it out with us, play their games, get their games scheduled, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to play a game with the Cardinals. I got the Redskins this week, which will be it'll be a tough game. Never played him, but I know he's a good player. Been in the playoffs each year that I've been here, so that'll be a tough one for me. But like I said, just hope guys stick around and continue to play their games and remain active. And as we push through this little bit of a lull that we've had, but we'll get through it. And looking forward to the finish of the season.
Dogs, another great show, another great week. I appreciate all the owners who are sticking it out and being a diehard. I enjoy that we are a year-round league. Check out the new coach only. If you're interested in that, hit me up. For Dogs and the leadership here at Grown Folks Madden League, we appreciate you listening to the show. Thanks for tuning in for another Press Pass Live. We will see you next week. Peace out.
Show me what you do now. We don't have to go around. Welcome to my house. We gotta go. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house. It's my house.